أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ثم الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه الأخيار أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. البدل. Our topic today is البدل. We are done with التوكيدات أو التأكيدات أو التوكيد as the topic is emphasis. We are coming to al-badalu, and all these are at-tawabi'. They are nouns that follow, or they are words that follow something that precedes them in i'rab. Anything as such, any word as such is called at-tabi'. Like sifa, an adjective. An adjective is tabi'. Why is it tabi'? Because لأنه يتبع ما قبله في الإعراب. Because it follows what comes before it in terms of i'rab. So all such words as-sifa, al-badal, at-tawqid, and all these words, they are called at-tawabi'. And when we talk about marfu'at, we've talked about the mubtada, we've talked about the fa'il, we've talked about the naibul fa'il and khabar and all that. We've talked about the khabaru kana, we talk about the ismu inna. They are all marfu'at. And then also under the marfu'at you have at-tawabi', because we will say at-tawabi' lil marfu' or at-tabi'u lil marfu'. Any word that follows a marfu' now is also marfu'. Okay. So today we look at al-badalu. Al-badalu, in the English terminology they call it apposition. In English grammar and other grammars they call it apposition. But then in our language, so that we understand, is basically substitution. If I say laysa li badalun, I don't have a substitute. So here it says in the text, Ibn Ajrum says, إذا أبدل اسم من اسم أو فعل من فعل تبعه في جميع إعرابه وهو أربعة أقسام. If a word is used to substitute another, إذا أبدل اسم من اسم, if a noun is used to substitute another, أو فعل من فعل, or a verb is used to substitute another, تبعه, the substitute, the one coming, تبعه follows the one before it, في جميع إعرابه, it follows it in all its إعراب. بمعنى, when it comes to follow a noun that is marfu', it has to be marfu'. When the badal comes to follow a noun that is mansub, it has to be mansub. Majroor, it has to be majroor. Majzoom, it has to follow in that regards. And he says, وَهُوَ أَرْبَعَةُ أَقْسَامٍ أي البدل أربعة أقسام. The badal is in 4 categories. We have badal الشيء من الشيء, taking the whole of something to replace another. Some will say badal الكل من الكل. And he says, وَبَدَلُ الْبَعْضِ مِنَ الْكُلِّ, and also using a part to substitute the whole. Sometimes you just mention something and you now mention a part of it to replace it. وَبَدَلُ الْإِجْتِمَالِ, Ijtimal is involving. When we say ijtimal, like we say اشتمل على هذه الجامعة اشتملت على أربعة كليات. this university اشتملت على أربعة كليات. It contains 4 colleges. This university contains. So when we say اشتمال, involvement, containing. So when we say بدل الاشتمال, using something that has a connection with what you've already mentioned to substitute it. We will come to understand it clearly when you give the amsila. It says وبدل الغلط. We have a badal we call badal al-ghalat, badal al-khata. I say something, I make a mistake, then I mention the right thing to replace it right away. نحو قولك, like you say, قام زيد أخوك. Zaid, your brother, has stood up. قام زيد, خلاص, it's okay. قام أخوك, it's okay. But he says قام زيد and he says أخوك. He wants to clarify the Zaidun for you. He says, وَأَكَلْتُ الرَّغِيفَ ثُلْثَهُ. So when he says أخوك is the same as Zaid. That your brother is the same as Zaid. So when he mentions him to replace Zaid, when he mentions أخوك to replace Zaid, it is بدل الكل من الكل. Or the way we say بدل الشيء من الشيء. It depends on the terminology you feel cool using. And he says, وَأَكَلْتُ الرَّغِيفَ ثُلُثَهُ. I ate the bread. ثُلُثَهُ. A third of it. يعني 1/3 of it. So what will this be? This will be بدل البعض من الكل. So he mentions the whole. I ate the bread. Then he said, no, 1/3 of it. So the 1/3 of it becomes the badal for رغيف. وَنَفَعَنِي زَيْدٌ عِلْمُهُ. نَفَعَنِي زَيْدٌ. Zaid benefited me. How? عِلْمُهُ. His knowledge. Zaid benefited me. His knowledge benefited me. So ilmuhu is in connection. Zaid contains the knowledge. That is what we call اشتمال. أي إذا ذكر زيد يشتمل على علمه. إذا قلت زيد فأعني زيد أعني جسمه وأعني رأسه ويده وكل شيء وعقله وكل شيء يعني. So everything that is contained in Zaid, when I say Zaid, I mean it. But when he says وَنَفَعَنِي زَيْدٌ عِلْمُهُ, Zaid benefited me, his knowledge. And this knowledge is contained in Zaid. That is what we call badalul ishtimal. And he says وَرَأَيْتُ زَيْدًا الْفَرَسَ. I saw Zaid, the horse. So right away you know that here he doesn't mean that Zaid is a horse. Here he's not referring to Zaid as a horse. No. What he is doing here is that he is supposed to say he saw the horse, but then he mistakenly said he saw Zaid. Let's say maybe Zaid is used to riding that horse or something. Then he saw the horse. So instead of saying Ra'aytul Farasa, he mistakenly said Ra'aytu Zaidan. Then he quickly brought Al-Farasa. Yani here he meant Al-Farasa, not Zaid. فَأَرَدْتَ أَن تَقُولَ الْفَرَسَ فَغَلِطْتَ فَأَبْدَلْتَ زَيْدًا مِنْهُ. So you wanted to say Faras, the horse, but then you made a mistake. And then you brought Zaid in his place. So now you are bringing Al-Farasa to become a substitute for the Zaid you mentioned mistakenly. So that is the text from from Ibn Ajrum, his book Al-AJRUMIYYA, Muqaddimat Al-AJRUMIYYA. In explanation, Sheikh says, Al-Badalu huwa, Badal is التابع لغيره المقصود بالذات. When we say Al-Badal, we mean something that comes after the other, but it is the intended. Badal is always the intended thing. Like I say, Nafa'ani Zaidun, Zaid benefited me. And I say, Ilmuhu, Nafa'ani Zaidun, Ilmuhu. His knowledge benefited me. That is what I actually intended. When I say Ra'aytu Zaidan al-Farasa, the second one, which is the Badal, it is the one I intended. So he says that Al-Badalu huwa at-tabi'u ligayrihi al-maqsudu bizat. He says that the Badal is the one that follows another, but it is the one intended. Al-maqsudu bizat, it is the one being referred to. يعني, meaning, أن المتكلم أراد البدل دون المبدل منه. The one speaking intended the badal instead. So when I say Ra'aytu Zaidan al-Farasa, I intended al-Farasa, not al-Mubdal minhu, not the Zaid. The one being substituted is the Mubdal minhu. So like Ra'aytu Zaidan al-Farasa, the Zaid is the Mubdal minhu. And then the al-Farasa is the Badal. So the one speaking, Arad al-Badal, he intended the Badal. But what happened? لكن ذكر المبدل منه توطئة, but he mentioned the Mubdal minhu توطئة وتمهيدا للبدل. He mentioned it as an introductory, preparing the way for the Badal. So when I say رأيت زيد نفعني زيد, Zaid benefited me. Ilmuhu, his knowledge. The badal is what I intended. The ilm is what I intended. But when I brought Zaid first, I'm actually clearing the way to say his knowledge. When we say tawti'atan wa tamhidan, it's the same vocabulary. Yani introductory. I'm introducing the badal. Because when I say nafa'ani ilmuhu, it's not right. I have to say nafa'ani ilmu Zaid. That is the same thing said in the other way. Nafa'ani zaydun ilmuhu. So the ilmuhu is what we intended, but we brought the zayd to clear the way. Tawti'atan, as an introduction. Wa tamheedan, and in preparation. Lil badal, for the substitute. Like you bring in a player to play for a while. Let's say you play Stephen Appiah for a while. For the Black Stars team, you are playing maybe Stephen Appiah, let's say, or you play Majid Ashimeru currently. You are playing Majid Ashimeru, but you intend to play Pate for most of the time. So you play Majid Ashimeru for like 20 minutes, then you bring in Thomas Pate to come and complete the rest of the minutes, the 70 minutes that is remaining. So that is the kind of thing here. The substitute, the one that comes first, is just in preparation for the substitute itself. That is the same thing with Badal. It says, وَإِلَى هَذَا يُشِيرُ ابن مالك في قوله. Ibn Malik in his Alfiya says about the Badal, he says, التابع المقصود بالحكم. He said, the one that follows the other. التابع here, a word that follows another in judgment. He said, it is a word, it's a follower. Let's name it that way for the purpose of this lesson. التابع, a follower that is intended with meaning. Al-maqsood bil-hukm here, take it as the one that is intended with meaning. So if I'm saying something and I say Ra'aytu Zaydan al-farasa, it is the al-farasa that I intend you to understand. When I say Nafa'ani Zaydun ilmuhu, I intend for you to know that it is Zayd's knowledge that benefited me. So that is the al-maqsood bil-hukm. It is the one that we place judgment on. So you can't, when I say Nafa'ani Zaydun ilmuhu, you can't come and tell me that, but at the end of the day, Zayd did not help you carry the load. No, the hukum is not on Zayd. The hukum is on ilmuhu. So if his knowledge didn't benefit me, then you challenge it. But you can't come and say Zayd did not help you to carry the load. Zayd did not help you beat the boy. So how do you say Nafa'ani Zaydun? I've told you that Nafa'ani Zaydun ilmuhu, and the tabi'un, which is the ilmuhu, it is al-maqsood bil-hukum. It is the one that I intend for you to understand. Bila wasitatin, and there is no conjunction between the badal and the mubdal minhu. There is no wa or summa or fa or all those conjunctional words there. There's no wasita. دون واسطة هو المسمى بدلا. It is the one that is called badalan. So the word that comes after another and it's the one intended with to understand bila wasitatin, without any wasita, then we are referring to badal. How? Let's look at something here in this definition. As-sifa is also almost the same thing. It is at-tabi'u bila wasitatin. But is it al-maqsood bil-hukum? So when I say ar-rajul al-jamil, the hukum here falls on the rajul, it falls on the jamil. It's not specific to the jamil. But sifa is also at-tabi'u bila wasitatin. But then it is not at-tabi'u al-maqsood bil-hukum. So the definition Alfiya, Ibn Malik, Sahib al-Alfiya gives at-tabi' is quite appropriate. And he says, فَالْبَدَلُ عِبَارَةٌ عَنْ تَابِعٍ لِمَتْبُوعٍ وَهُوَ الْمَقْصُودُ بِالْحُكُمِ. When we say badal, is about a word that follows another, and it is the one that we intend. The second word is the one we intend. أَيُّهُمَ الْمَقْصُودُ الْبَدَلُ أَمِ الْمُبْدَلْ مِنْهُ. Which one is the one intended? Al-badalu. The substitute is the one that we intend. Al-badalu huwa al-maqsood dun al-mubdal minhu. Dun al-mubdal minhu. The badal is the one we intend and not the mubdal minhu. Says يقول المؤلف, the author says, إذا أبدل اسم من اسم أو فعل من فعل تبعه في جميع إعرابه. أفادنا رحمه الله أن البدل كما يكون في الأسماء يكون في الأفعال. Per what Ibn Ajurrum said in his مقدمة الآجرومية, he has made us understand that the badal can be verb and it can be noun. It can be a noun and it can be a verb. Okay. And also, فالبدل إذن إما فعل وإما اسم. So the badal can either be a verb or a noun. يعني إما أن يبدل اسم من اسم وإما أن يبدل فعل من فعل. We either substitute a verb in place of another or substitute a noun in place of the other. Okay. Says يقول إنه يتبعه في جميع إعرابه. The author have said that it follows it in all its إعراب. يعني the بدل follows the مبدل منه in all its إعراب. فإن كان مرفوعا رفع. If the مبدل منه is مرفوع, the بدل becomes مرفوع also. In the same way, if it is منصوب نصب, if it is مجرور جر, if it is مجزوما جزم. لأن الفعل داخل معنا, because we are saying we are bringing مجزوم here because a بدل can also be a verb and verbs can become مجزوم. لأن الفعل داخل معنا والفعل يكون فيه الجزم. فعل can become مجزوم, that's why we add جزم in this case. Okay. He says الأول, the first of the forms of بدل, بدل الشيء من الشيء. بدل الشيء من الشيء. That is, substitute something in place of the other. Says والمراد بشيء من الشيء يعني بدل الكل من الكل. Substituting the whole for the whole. يقابله بدل البعض من الكل. Its opposite in this regards is بدل البعض من الكل, using a part or some to substitute the whole. يعني أن تبدل شيئا من شيء يساويه. When we say بدل الشيء من الشيء, what we mean, or بدل الكل من الكل, what we mean is that أن تبدل شيئا من شيء يساويه, to substitute something from the other that is equal, to substitute two equal things. That is what we call بدل الكل من الكل. وإذا أبدلت شيئا بشيء, if you substitute something for the other, فقد أبدلت كلا من كل, you've in that case done a whole substitution. بمعنى, I tell you that like the way he brought رأيت محمدا أباك. Abaka here is your father. Muhammadan that I'm talking about is your father. So it's like the same person that I'm substituting. The Ahu, the Abaka is the same as the Muhammadan. So it's the whole that I'm substituting from the whole. I didn't say Ra'aytu Muhammadan sayyaratahu. You get it? I didn't say something like that. And I say that Ra'aytu Muhammadan Abaka. I saw Muhammad, your father. In that case, I've substituted, I use the whole to substitute the whole. Okay, and he's saying that الثاني, the second form of badal is بدل البعض من الكل, substituting some for, or substituting the whole for some, using a part to substitute the whole. يعني أن يكون البدل بعضا من المبدل منه, for the badal, the second noun, to be a part of the first noun. The examples will clarify everything. الثالث بدل الاجتماع. بدل الاجتماع, what we mean is وأن يكون البدل له صلة بالمبدل منه. The badal should have a connection with the مبدل منه. الرابع, the fourth is بدل الغلط, mistake, substitution of mistake. بأن يغلط المتكلم فيقول شيئا ثم يتذكر ويأتي بالمقصود. For the author, for the one speaking to make a mistake and say something, and then he remembers and brings what he actually intends. مثال ذلك, example to that. قام زيد أخوك. Zaid stood up, your brother. أخوك وزيد متساويان. When we say أخوك, it's the same as Zaid. The same thing. لأن أخوك, because your brother هو زيد is Zaid, وزيد هو أخوك, and Zaid is your brother. هذا نسميه بدل كل من كل. This one we call it the substitution of the whole for the whole. أو شيء من شيء, it depends on which name you want to use. شيء من شيء يساويه. لأن كلام المؤلف, because the author statement, he used شيء من شيء هو المراد, he used شيء من شيء. شيء من شيء يساويه وهو بدل الكل من الكل. So such a badal is بدل الكل من الكل. مثلا أنا أتكلم فأقول, I'm speaking and I say جاء زيد. Zaid came. ثم أعدل عن كلمة زيد وأقول. Then I just switch from the word Zaid and I say جاء أخوك. لأن كونه أخا له أهم من كون اسمه زيدا. Because when I say جاء زيد, جاء زيد, I quickly switch and I'm like جاء أخوك. I'm bringing the Akhuka to replace the Zaid I mentioned because the fact that he's your brother is more important than his name being Zaid, perhaps in the situation we are speaking. Like a scenario in the Arabs, when if you look at the Umar series, when the elders sat in the Kuffar, they sat in their chamber and they are discussing, and maybe someone's son draws disgrace to them, what do? The other father will say, maybe Ikrima, Ibnuka. He will say, Ja'a bihadha Ikrima. Like the one who brought this is Ikrima, Ibnuka, your son. So there the fact that he's your son is more important because it creates the connection and disgrace more than the fact that his name is Ikrima. That's not important in what he's saying. He wants to say Ja'a. He wants to say that Ja'a bihaza ibnuka. Your son brought this to us. But he mentions his name and he says Ja'a bihaza Ikrima ibnuka. You get it? So such a situation, you do badal. But that will be badal al-kulli min al-kull. Or badal al-shay min al-shay yusawihi. Says أو أمرا لأن فرح الإنسان. He says that لأن كونه أخا له أهم من كون اسمه زيدا أو أمرا. The fact that his brother is more important in the case that I'm speaking than his name being Zaid or Amr or whatever. لأن فرح الإنسان بأخيه أشد من فرحه بزيد من الناس. Because somebody's happiness, like let's say there's a program and they are mentioning names and they are like Redwan won an award, and they are like Redwan won an award, the son of Sabti. Now when Sabti is sitting there, he's more happier than the son factor being mentioned more than the name. If they said Redwan won an award, what's the joy in it? The fact that they mentioned your son is more exciting than the name. That's what Sheikh is explaining here. لأن فرح الإنسان بأخيه, because the happiness, the joy of a person with his brother, أشد من فرحه بزيد من الناس, is more stronger than his happiness for some Zaid among people. كذلك أيضا ربما أقول, in the same vein I might say جاء أخوك, your brother has come. ثم أقول زيد, then I will replace أخوك بزيد. أنا أقصد بهذا أنه لو قال قائل. When I say this, somebody might say لماذا يقول جاء زيد أخوك, والمقصود هو بيان أنه أخوه. لماذا لم يقل جاء أخوك? Why doesn't he just say جاء أخوك when the intended thing is that we actually intend your brother? You don't really need extra explanation. Why does he say that جاء أخوك and he says زيد again? He says لم يقل جاء أخوك ويكفي, and that is enough. نقول لأن فيه فائدة وهي تعيين هذا الأخ أنه زيد. And there is a benefit in this, there is a meaning we get from this, because this one picks out the brother and shows that this brother we are talking about is Zaid, not any other brother. So you say this badal is very appropriate. It's not like just extra usage of words. Okay. It says اشتريت سكينا مدية. I bought sikin. Now mudyatan is the same word, is the same as knife. Sikin is knife, mudyatan is knife. Now he says هذا بدل كل من كل. This is also بدل كل من الكل, because mudya is the same as sikin. لأن السكين هي المدية، لكني أردت أن أبين أن ما اشتريت يسمى سكينا ويسمى مدية. But the one who says such wants to emphasize or wants to clarify that what he bought is called sikin and it's also called mudya. Jamil. Okay. And it says فإذا كان البدل هو نفس المبدل منه لا يزيد ولا ينقص نسميه بدل كل من كل. He says that if the badal is the same as the mubdal minhu, لا يزيد ولا ينقص, there is no decrement or increment. نسميه, we call such بدل كل من كل, بدل كل من الكل or بدل الكل من الكل. وفائدته, and the benefit of such is التعيين أحيانا, specificity, being specific, أو بيان أن هذا له اسمان, or sometimes also giving explanation to the fact that this has two names. مثل اشتريت سكينا مدية, like this. It shows that the thing I'm talking about has two names. Okay. And then we come to الثاني. الثاني, let me see if we should. Okay, let's just add الثاني here. الثاني says بدل البعض من الكل. بدل البعض من الكل. يعني substituting some for the whole, or substituting the whole for some. You mention the whole thing, then you mention a part of it. So it says بدل البعض من الكل أي أن يكون الثاني بعضا من الأول, for the second noun to be a part of the first noun. يكون البدل بعضا من المبدل منه, هذا نسميه بدل البعض من الكل. This is all clear. مثل أكلت الرغيف ثلثه, like the example Ibn Ajrum gave. I ate the bread, a third of it. And الذي أكل حقيقة, what was actually eaten, هو الرغيف, is the bread. أو ثلثه, is it the bread, الرغيف, أو ثلثه. So it says that الذي أكل حقيقة هو الرغيف أو ثلثه. The one that was ate in reality, is it the bread or a third of it? Because when you say الرغيف, it means that the whole. So it says that ثلثه يعني انتبه أنا ما أكلت الرغيف كله لكن ثلثه. So when he says that أكلت الرغيف ثلثه, what he means is that أكلت الرغيف, then he's like, oh, watch out, ثلثه, I didn't eat all, don't get angry, I ate only a third of it. So that is the function here. Like you say جاء القوم نصفهم, the people came, a half of them. هذا بعض من كل والمقصود هو النصف. What we actually mean is that a part of them, a half of them came, not that they all came. لكني ذكرت القوم ثم أبدلت المقصود وهو النصف. But I mentioned the people, يعني ذكرت القوم, I mentioned the people, and then I substituted it quickly with what I actually intend, or what is actually the reality on the ground, that there is half of them that came, not all, so that somebody doesn't understand wrongly. Okay. It says إذن بدل البعض من الكل ضابطه أن يكون الثاني بعضا من الأول. He says that the point to note about the بدل البعض من الكل is that the second noun should be a part of the first. رأيت زيدا بعضه يصح لأن الرؤية قد تكون للكل وقد تكون للبعض. You can say that رأيت زيد, I saw a part of Zaid. This is right, because seeing, you can see a part of somebody and not the whole of him. Well, you say شرب زيد نصفه, شرب زيد نصفه, like Zaid drank, a half of him drank. لا يصح, this is not right. Why? لأنه إذا شرب فهو واحد لا يتبعض. If Zaid drinks, it is the whole of Zaid that has drunk. Zaid cannot be put into parts. Like, it can be like, we can't say a part of Zaid drank water and a part of him didn't drink water. You know, it's not that is not done. Then بدل البعض من الكل لا بد أن يكون الشيء مما يقبل التجزؤ والتبعض وإلا فلا يصح. When you want to do بدل البعض من الكل, it has to be about something that accepts partitions, something that can be partitioned. التجزؤ or التبعض, something that can be partitioned or something that has some. You can take some and a piece of it will still be remaining like that. وإلا فلا يصح. Else you can do بدل البعض من الكل. ذكر بعض العلماء عكس ذلك أي بدل الكل من البعض. Some scholars have added the opposite of this and said that we can have the whole coming to substitute the part. واستدلوا لذلك بقول الشاعر, and they use the statement of this poet as evidence. رحم الله أعظما دفنوها بسجستان طلحة الطلحات. So رحم الله أعظما. أعظما here is the مفعول به, يعني bones. God have mercy on bones that they buried in Sajistan. Talhata is the whole being, the whole human being. Talhata Talhat is the whole human being we are talking about here. But they mentioned A'azuman, the bones first, and then they came to mention the Talha, being the badal. So they brought the whole after mentioning a part. So Talha, hazihi kul. The Talha is the whole human being. Wa'azuman, and the bones, ani izam. Ba'adun is a part. قالوا فهذا بدل كل من البعض من بعض بدل كل من بعض لكنه قليل. But they are writing what they are saying, but it's just a little. It doesn't happen a lot in Arabic language. It is mostly بدل البعض من الكل, not بدل الكل من بعض. Okay. And he says that the third, okay, let's take the بدل الاجتمال in the next session inshallah. Allahumma alim.